Good morning and welcome to News at 10 on Rajya Sabha television. I'm Aishwarya Kapoor. Well, Chennai floods remain our top focus. Well, the city is returning to normalcy because both the domestic and international flights have resumed on the international airport. Also, in our international focus, we'll be looking at Obama. Now, in his rare Oval Office address, has spoken about terror. But let us begin with the headlines. National security advisors of India and Pakistan hold talks in Bangkok, discuss issues including terror and J&K, issue joint statement to carry forward constructive engagement. Top Madheshi leaders clarify that India has been wrongly blamed for protests against Nepal's new constitution, likely to meet Prime Minister Modi today. Domestic and international flights resume at Chennai airport today, life limping back to normal as water levels recede in many areas, but forecast for more rains in the next 48 hours. US President Barack Obama's rare address from the Oval Office in the wake of California mass shooting says the threat from terrorism is real but will be overcome. And India break a 33-year-old medal jinx at a major international hockey tournament, stunned defending champion Netherlands to bag bronze at the Hockey World League. Well, in an unusual turn of events, national security advisors of India and Pakistan held secret talks in Bangkok on Sunday. The wide-ranging talks included the contentious issue of Jammu and Kashmir. Now, both sides later issued a joint statement saying that the talks were cordial and conducive.
After months of hostility, a sudden breakthrough in Indo-Pak ties. National security advisors of both countries, Ajit Doval and Nasir Janjua, held talks in Bangkok on Sunday, agreeing to take forward what they called constructive engagement. In a joint statement, the two sides termed it a cordial meeting, giving out details of what was discussed. The statement was as follows. Pursuant to the meeting of the Prime Ministers of India and Pakistan in Paris, the NSAs, accompanied by the Foreign Secretaries, met in Bangkok. Discussions were held in a candid, cordial and constructive atmosphere. They were guided by the vision of the two leaders for a peaceful, stable and prosperous South Asia. Discussions covered peace and security, terrorism, Jammu and Kashmir and other issues, including tranquility along the LOC. It was agreed to carry forward the constructive engagement, unquote. Reactions poured in soon after news of the NSA-level meeting broke. The Congress called it a grand betrayal.
Bangkok represents the greatest betrayal of national interest. What has changed between the September of 2015 and the December of 2015 that has prompted the resumption of this dialogue, and that too at a faraway place called Bangkok? Has Lakhvi been arrested? Has action against Hafiz Saeed been taken? Have the 2611 trials moved forward? Has Dawood Ibrahim been handed over to you? Have the question of atrocities in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir been addressed? What has changed?
It is a good beginning, and let us see how this process is going to be continued by External Affairs Ministry as well as by the government.
Now, when we look at the statement which has emanated out of Bangkok in these NSA-level talks, where the foreign secretaries are also present, that clearly shows that it's in continuum and that the substantive issues of the spirit of the UFA statements are well reflected here. So I think that's how one would look at it.
The NSA-level meeting comes just days after the Prime Ministers of India and Pakistan met in Paris on the sidelines of the Global Climate Change Summit. It's being seen as a major breakthrough given the two sides had engaged in mutual blame game in September this year, resulting in cancellation of the NSA-level talks. It also paves the way for External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj's visit to Islamabad this week to attend a multilateral conference on Afghanistan. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, turning our focus to another neighbour, now India has assured its support to Nepal's Madheshi community in resolving the ongoing political crisis in the Himalayan country. Now, External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj on Sunday met top Madheshi leaders who also clarified that the agitation was purely theirs and India had been wrongly blamed for it. Now, they're likely to meet Prime Minister Narendra Modi today. A meeting with Congress President Sonia Gandhi is also expected.
Jai Madhe! Jai Madhe! Jai Madhe! Jai Madhe!
The situation in Nepal is likely to be again raised in the Rajya Sabha today. This after External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj on Sunday met top leaders of the restive Madheshi community who are agitating against the country's new constitution adopted in September. The Madheshi leaders sought India's help for a speedy political solution for restoring normalcy in the Himalayan nation. After the meet, India reaffirmed its support for an inclusive Nepal. The MEA, in a series of tweets, called for broad-based ownership of constitution and encouraged speedy political solution and return to normalcy.
भारत अपना कूटनीतिक प्रयास के माध्यम से वहाँ के जो मानवाधिकार का उल्लंघन है उसे रोकने का प्रयास करे और सभी जनताओं को समान अधिकार मिले.
Last week, the External Affairs Minister had made a statement in the Rajya Sabha on a calling attention motion, pointing out how India has made efforts to reroute essential supplies to its landlocked neighbour and denying that it had enforced any blockade on the India-Nepal border. On Sunday, Madheshi leaders also met opposition leaders including Congress's Karan Singh, JDU leader Sharad Yadav and NCP's DP Tripathi.
वहाँ के लोग सीमा को अवरोध करके रखा है जिससे नेपाल में समस्या पैदा हुआ है. तो समस्या तो हमने पैदा किया है ना. इसमें भारत का कहीं कोई नाम लेना भी गुनाह है. भारत तो मधेश में आंदोलन रहा, उसका जो सुरक्षा की बात है उसको लेकर के स्वाभाविक है कि भारतीय जो ट्रांसपोर्टर है वो जाने में हिचकिचा रहे हैं.
The Madheshis, who are demanding increased political representation, correction in citizen provisions and revision in federal boundaries, have said that they intend to continue with their agitation till their demands are met. They say they are ready for talks with Nepal leadership.
तराई मधेश को, उस भूभाग को जो 2007 में समझौता हुआ था कि इसको अलग राज्य का दर्जा दिया जाएगा, वो अलग राज्य का दर्जा उसे मिलनी चाहिए. उनकी भाषाओं को जो है संविधान में मान्यता होनी चाहिए. उन्हें जो है सिटीजनशिप का राइट्स होनी चाहिए. ये सारा बुनियादी सवाल है.
Nepal is currently facing shortage of supplies as its Madheshi population continues to block transit routes from India to protest the new constitution. Nepal leaders have accused India of having engineered the blockade, a charge that India has vehemently denied. Over 50 people have died in violent protests that have been raging across the Nepali region of Terai since September last. Following the protests last week, political parties in Nepal have agreed to carry out amendments to its new constitution within 3 months. This is Akhilesh Suman's report for Rajya Sabha TV. Meanwhile, normalcy is returning to Tamil Nadu after incessant rain and flooding. Now, domestic and international flight operations have resumed at the Chennai International Airport. Power has been restored in many areas, though at several places there is still a blackout. Meanwhile, with receding waters, the fear of an epidemic is looming large. The death toll so far in the floods has crossed 352.
Domestic and international flights, both day and night, will resume at the Chennai airport from today.
रनवे पूरी तरह से तैयार है और उस पर से पूरी तरह से पानी हट चुका है और आज से पूरे कमर्शियल ऑपरेशंस पूरी तरह से चालू हो गए हैं.
The airport, there are a large number of passengers who are stranded because there have been no flights for the last 2 days. We have 2 C-17s at Arkonam which are ready to take on this task.
But intermittent rain through the day on Sunday and forecast of more over the next 2 days kept Chennai, its suburbs and coastal districts on their toes. Life after the floods appeared to be returning to normal.
अभी हमें नियर बाय सिटीज़ में पहुंचाने के वो ट्राई कर रहे हैं. ओवरऑल अभी सिचुएशन कंट्रोल में है. वेदर थोड़ा अभी ठीक हो रहा है तो आई थिंक सब ठीक हो जाएगा.
Power supply has been restored in several areas while it continued to be disconnected in many others where water has not receded as a measure of precaution. Mounds of garbage were seen on streets as water level receded in some areas, but residents fear an epidemic outbreak.
அதே மாதிரி தண்ணி ஆத்துல வந்தாலும் சொல்றது கிடையாது. சொல்லவும் மாட்டேன்றாங்க. எங்களுக்கு நாங்க தெரிஞ்சு ஓட வேண்டியதாக எல்லாத்தையும் யாரும் வரல வந்து பார்க்கல, யாரும் எந்த உதவியும் பண்ணல. இது வரைக்கும் வரல. எங்களுக்கு பொதுமக்கள் தான் எங்களுக்கு சேவை செய்றாங்க.
Ravaged by heavy rains last week which crippled services, several private and public sector banks operated on Sunday. People are now waiting for train services to get back on track.
बारिश की वजह से हर आदमी यहाँ पे रुका हुआ है. कोई जम्मू का है, कोई दिल्ली का है, कोई यूपी बिहार का है. इसलिए हम सबसे रिक्वेस्ट करते हैं कि सब ट्रेनें खोल दीजिए, सब रास्ते खोल दीजिए.
As a precautionary measure, the state government has declared holidays for schools and colleges today in the districts including Chennai, Kanchipuram and Tiruvallur. Defence forces have called off aerial sorties for rescue operations. In the past few days, through a coordinated team of Defence forces and NDRF, the IAF lifted nearly 1,500 people to safety. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
The Chief Justice of India, T.S. Thakur, has said that there is a political angle to the whole religious intolerance debate. However, he sent out a strong message to divisive forces in the country, saying that India is an inclusive society where people of all faiths and religions flourish. He also assured the nation that the Supreme Court would ensure that the rule of law reigns supreme.
Chief Justice of India, T.S. Thakur, is the latest to join the intolerance debate. In an informal interaction with media persons, Justice Thakur said the debate was just a political issue and that there was no need to fear or worry till the judiciary was independent and upheld the rule of law. He further said, and I quote, "I'm heading the institution which upholds the rule of law and the rights of every citizen will be protected. I think we are capable of protecting the rights of all sections of people. My institution is capable of upholding the rights of citizens. Certain rights are for the citizens and certain rights are for non-citizens also, and we are capable of protecting the rights." Unquote. The CJI statement has got mixed reactions from the political class.
सुप्रीम कोर्ट के वो चीफ जस्टिस है, इसलिए उनकी बात पे मैं कुछ बात नहीं कहूँगा।
सुप्रीम कोर्ट के किसी जज का ऐसा बयान मुझे नहीं लगता है बहुत चीफ जस्टिस का बहुत सार्थक है। देखिए, चीफ जस्टिस को तब बयान देने चाहिए जब उनके पास कोई गुहार लेके जाए। चीफ जस्टिस की व्यक्तिगत राय ना कोर्ट की राय होती है, ना कानून की राय होती है, ना किसी संगठन या संस्था की राय होती है। ये उनकी व्यक्तिगत राय होती है।
सही कहा है महामहिम मुख्य न्यायाधीश जी ने कि देश के अंदर कहीं कोई इंटॉलरेंस नहीं है। मैं मानता हूं कि कुछ लोग इंटॉलरेंस के नाम पर भारत को बदनाम करना चाहते हैं।
The CJI's remarks come at a time when the entire country is debating the issue of intolerance, post incidents that have garnered a lot of attention. These include the killings of rationalists like Kalburgi and Pansare, the Dadri killing, and the death of 2 Dalit children recently. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And we'll take a very short break here. We'll be back with more news. Stay tuned.
Hottest topics.
If you can facilitate the opening up and the expansion of the international border trade, you can add to the economy.
370 धारा जो है वो जम्मू कश्मीर को मुल्क के साथ जोड़े रखती है।
Candid confessions.
The Congress has not been able to communicate.
We have to revive our links with the masses.
World-class healthcare is available to only a handful of people in this country.
Courting controversies.
A lot of leaders today think that they rule by divine right.
Now, media has become manageable.
Watch RSTV engaged personalities to the point. Every Wednesday, 10 p.m., Thursday, 1:30 and 5:30 p.m.
Welcome back. Time for some international news now. And the ministerial level round of negotiations at the climate summit in Paris will begin today. Environment ministers from across the globe will begin to transform a draft that has conflicting proposals into a concrete climate pact to cap greenhouse gas emissions. The 48-page draft that will still contains all the unresolved options on the key issues at stake will form the basis on which ministers from across the globe, including Environment Minister Prakash Javadekar, will try to formulate a binding deal. Now, ahead of the start of the negotiations, Javadekar has said that India will ensure that principles of common but differentiated responsibilities is respected. Javadekar said, and I quote him now, "For India, it is a question of present and future lives of our 1.27 billion people with aspirations to develop. We will not let this meeting fail to reach its objectives. India is here to ensure that seminal principle of CBDR is respected, and India is here to ensure that rich countries pay back their debt for overdraft that they have drawn on the carbon space." Now, India is also determined not to make Paris summit like past summits, where we all returned home with false optimism and fictitious hopes. quote unquote. News from France now, where the nation's far-right National Front is making big gains in the first round of the high-stakes regional elections as per the provisional results. Now, it comes as a major boost for the anti-immigration party. The polls put the FN ahead in at least 6 of the 13 regions in mainland France. FN leader Marine Le Pen told supporters that it was a magnificent result which proved that FN was without contest the first party of France. The centre-right Republicans Party, led by former President Nicolas Sarkozy, appears to be in second place ahead of the governing Socialist Party. Well, as the results became clear, the Socialist Party said that it was withdrawing from the second round in at least 2 regions in the north and the south to try to block a runoff victory for the FN. Well, a second round of voting will be held on 13th of December. The elections are the first electoral test since last month's Paris attacks, in which 130 people were killed. And US President Barack Obama delivered a rare address from the Oval Office today in the wake of the California mass shooting, the deadliest in the last 2 years. Obama called for unity in the face of the evolving threat of terrorism. Obama has been frustrated by his failure to convince Congress to pass tougher gun laws despite a series of horrific mass shootings during his time in office.
As the United States continues to build support in fighting terrorism internationally, it is a different story back home. Making no headway against the resilient gun lobbies and a tougher Republican leadership, US President Barack Obama has nothing to show for the string of mass shootings and violent attacks in the country. President Obama's speech aims to reassure a nervous nation of his resolute will and plan to defeat the fast-evolving threat of terrorism. Obama used the symbolic power of the Oval Office only for the 3rd time in his presidency to emphasize his pledge to keep Americans safe, given the gravity of the occasion.
The threat from terrorism is real, but we will overcome it. We will destroy ISIL and any other organization that tries to harm us.
The debate over gun control has long been one of the most contentious political issues in the US, with the right to gun ownership enshrined in the US Constitution's Second Amendment. President Obama has been pressing for legislation to make it harder for criminals to get guns.
To begin with, Congress should act to make sure no one on a no-fly list is able to buy a gun. I know there are some who reject any gun safety measures, but the fact is that our intelligence and law enforcement agencies, no matter how effective they are, cannot identify every would-be mass shooter, whether that individual is motivated by ISIL or some other hateful ideology.
But the Republicans in the Congress have mounted heavy opposition to gun control measures. They argue that stricter legislation is not the solution. In fact, they say it is the good guys that must be armed to stop such attacks.
And so folks in the media think you should not be discussing Second Amendment rights in the wake of a terror attack. You don't stop bad guys by taking away our guns. You stop bad guys by using our guns.
The Islamic State militant group in a radio broadcast said that the couple that carried out the attack were IS supporters, but gave no indication that the group was involved in its planning. The California shooting that resulted in the death of 14 people is being probed as an act of terror. The FBI is conducting further searches and investigations in connection with the attack. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And now more news from across the globe in World Wrap. At least 32 Islamic State militants were killed in US-led coalition raids on the group's stronghold of Raqqa province in northern Syria. The city is the de facto Syrian capital of Islamic State, which calls the large stretches of territory it controls in Syria and neighboring Iraq an Islamic caliphate. Meanwhile, President Bashar al-Assad slammed Britain's decision to participate in the airstrikes. Remember, Britain voted on Wednesday to join the coalition strikes. A car bombing claimed by the Islamic State group on Sunday killed the governor of Yemen's city of Aden. A statement posted on Twitter by the jihadist group said it was behind a blast that hit the convoy of Jafar Saad in Tawahi neighborhood, killing him and 8 bodyguards. The bombing comes a day after the UN envoy visited the press to press for long-delayed peace talks. US Vice President Joe Biden arrived in Kiev late Sunday, reassuring Washington's commitment to Ukraine despite stepped-up efforts to work with Russia against Islamic State. Biden's 3-day visit is his 4th to Kiev since Russia annexed Ukraine's Crimea Peninsula in March 2014. Biden is due to meet Ukrainian President Petro Poroshenko today, and also he will deliver an address to Parliament on Tuesday. Iraq has threatened to go to the United Nations if Turkey does not withdraw soldiers it sent to areas near the northern Iraqi city of Mosul within 48 hours. Now, Baghdad says that the deployment was done without consultation and was a violation of national sovereignty. Turkish Prime Minister, however, defended the move as a routine troop rotation at a pre-established camp. Remember, Mosul has been under the control of Islamic State militants since last year. Well, moving on to some sports news now. And a spirited India broke their 33-year-old medal jinx in a major international tournament as they came back from 2 goals down to stun defending champions Netherlands in the shootout after both the teams were tied 5-5 at regulation time in a thrilling bronze medal playoff match of the Hockey World League final in Raipur on Sunday. Here are all the details.
Just feel if India could get a goal before the final.
After starting the match on a slow note, India produced a fine show in the last 2 quarters to beat the world number 2 side with their relentless attacks in the second half.
But it all started from a marvellous interception there.
It was a high-intensity match which produced as many as 6 goals in the last 10 minutes, 3 each for India and Netherlands.
Drills the ball in, it should be Ramandi. Ramandi gets a touch! It's a goal! India have taken...
The Netherlands were quick to take a 2-0 lead in the first half, courtesy some sloppy defending from the Indians. When Mirko Pruizer and Niek van der Schoot scored 2 field goals to silence the capacity crowd.
Netherlands are level. India have it all to do again.
I saw a different India today than during the pool phase. I believe in the phase where India was just trying to force something. They pressed us a lot the second half. We didn't really have a good answer to it. The answer was there, but we didn't execute. Yeah, like Max was saying, every tackle, they want to win the tackle, the duel, and they want to win every circle penetration, and we didn't fought them at that moment, and all the credits to India from that.
In the shootout, the Indians prevailed over the Dutch 3-2 at the Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel Stadium, and the win avenged India's 1-3 defeat against the Netherlands in the pool stages of the tournament here.
Akashdeep scores! It's a 5th goal for India!
काफ़ी अच्छी फीलिंग है और जैसे इस टूर्नामेंट में हम इंजॉय कर रहे हैं क्योंकि वर्ल्ड की सारी बेस्ट टीम्स हैं और क्लोज मार्जिन के सारे मैचेस हो रहे हैं, बट स्टिल हम अभी कोचेज अभी हमारे रोजर नए हैं और मिस्टर रोलेंड एज ए टीम हम छोटी छोटी जो डिटेल्स हैं उनके ऊपर वर्क कर रहे हैं और मैं कहूँगा कि बहुत सारी अच्छी चीज़ें हमने इस टूर्नामेंट में की है, बट स्टिल हमें आने वाले टाइम में और इम्प्रूवमेंट करनी है। अभी जो हमारे नेक्स्ट कैंप होंगे उसमें हम ट्राई करेंगे जो बाकी है कि अभी फिलहाल हम टीम के साथ अभी जाके इंजॉय करेंगे क्योंकि जीतने का एक डिफरेंट वो फीलिंग कैसी है, मैं कहूँगा कि वो भी सारे लड़के इंजॉय कर रहे हैं।
India last won a medal in the international tournament in 1982 when they beat Pakistan 5-4 in the Champions Trophy in Amsterdam. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And from hockey to cricket, and Ajinkya Rahane on Sunday achieved the rare distinction of scoring a century in each innings as India needed another 8 wickets on the last day of the 4th and final cricket test against fighting South Africa to record a historic 3-0 series win in New Delhi. Well, after being sent a daunting target of 481 for a win, South Africa batted with extreme caution to crawl to a painstakingly 72 for 2 in 72 overs at the close of the eventful day at the Firozshah Kotla. Now, in their bid to bat out for a draw, South African skipper Hashim Amla, batting at 23, settled for an ultra-defensive approach. Amla took 46 balls to open and scored only 6 runs in his first 100 balls. Well, if Hashim Amla and company managed to save the test, it will certainly be regarded as one of the greatest match-saving knocks in the history of the game. Earlier, courtesy Rahane's unbeaten 100 of 206 balls, his second of the match, India declared their second innings at 267 for 5 as the skipper Virat Kohli signalled the end of the innings when the batsman completed his 100. Now, this was the 6th Test century of Rahane's career. More sporting action in Sports Beat. World champions Australia stamped their authority and defeated Belgium 2-1 to clinch the title of the second edition of Hockey World League final at the Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel Stadium in Raipur on Sunday. Australia, who finished 4th in the last edition of the tournament 2 years back, showed why they are considered the most consistent team in world hockey as they took control of the match from the word go to dominate the world number 7 Belgians. In form, Borussia Mönchengladbach struck 3 times in 14 minutes in the second half of the floor to beat Bayern Munich 3-1, the Bundesliga champions' first league defeat of this season. Now, Bayern repeatedly caught napping at the back and lacking their usual pace on the wings, with Arjen Robben and Douglas Costa out injured, was still the better side in the first half. Bayern stunned after winning 13 of their 14 league games in the record-breaking start to the campaign. The International Premier Tennis League moved to Philippines on Sunday after the opening round in Kobe, Japan, and saw Philippine Mavericks move to the top of the leaderboard with 4 wins out of the 5 matches. The day began with Singapore Slammers beating Japanese Warriors 29-20 with 4 matches wins. Later in that day, Philippine Mavericks beat the UAE Royals 29-18 with Australian Mark Philippos of the Mavericks taking another win in the Legends match, this time over Croatian Goran Ivanisevic. That's all in this news bulletin, but news and updates continue on your channel. Keep watching Rajya Sabha TV.